Hello and happy week, and welcome back to the Power of the 72 Name class. And we just started a new moon, the new moon of Aries, known to be the new moon of Nisan. Nisan comes from like two words that hidden within this name. Nisan, Nes, which is miracle, and Nisan comes from the word Nisayon, which is testing, challenges, and so forth. The next 6 combination that connected or correspond to the month of Aries, each one of them is really there to assist us with this process that we started this new year with sort of cleansing. The 6 sequences are Vav Vav, Yud Lamed Yud, Samech Yutet, Ayin Lamed Mem, Mem He Shin, and Lamed Lamed He. All 6 combinations, again, corresponded with this month of Nisan, of this month of Aries. All are considered to be connected to the realm of Keter, which is the highest level of realm of consciousness within the tree of life worlds that exist. So it's the highest and it's most connected to the level of the light. Keter also, when we mention that, is correspond with, if we look at our head, it's correspond with our head, with our mind. Therefore, Keter correspond with all aspects of thoughts. So these 6 sequences that we're going to speak about within this month are helping us to identify the thoughts, negative, positive, how to cleanse our thoughts, how to make sure that we are aligned with the thought of the Creator, how we are using our thought to better our life in order to really manifest whatever is that we intended to manifest, to make sure that the thoughts that we have are proactive, that are going to allow us and helping us and supporting us with not just our spiritual work, but in our day-to-day life, in understanding more and more how the level of consciousness, maintaining it and growing the level of consciousness that we have is so vital to our process, to our living life to the fullest. So for this coming week, we are starting with the first day of Aries was just recently, and we are between the first day of Aries to the 5th day of Aries, we have the Vav He Vav, the first combination of the 72 name. You may see it in the chart at the first combination that starts from the right side of the chart. From the first day to the 5th day is Vav He Vav. From 5th day on to the 10th day is Yud Lamed Yud. So we're going to speak about those 2 combinations right now, and we'll understand more what it means. So again, in the literal translation, Vav He Vav, known to be, if we look at the chart, known to be connected to time traveling. And Yud Lamed Yud is awakening the sparks or recapturing the sparks. So let's talk about it and see what it really means for us and how we can apply this week into our life to support us our spiritual work. So when we talk about time traveling, because we just started not just a new month, we started a new year. And this new year also correspond with in the books, in the portion of the weeks that can also support us and giving us additional information is within the portion of Vaikra, which is talking all about all the 13 or 12 to 13 portions within this book, talks about every form of sacrifices. What we sacrifice, what type of animals we sacrifice, and for what. And we'll talk about it. But basically, this energy of Vav Vav, when we speak about time traveling in related to a whole new year, the time travel is about our mind, is the ability to go back into a certain situation, certain decision that we have made that really didn't do any good with us. We have the ability literally just to go back with visualization, with the power of our memory, to certain places where we wanted to inject a different consciousness. But in order to understand that, let's just speak and learn a little bit about the consciousness behind this. Well, in this whole portion of Vayikra, as I mentioned, is spoken about the sacrificing of animals, not just the portion, the whole book. And when we speak about sacrifice, in Hebrew, it's called korban. And let's just read a section from the portion of Vayikra in the Zohar in verse 51. By the way, it's in volume 14, 51. So I'm just going to read just a little bit of the Aramaic so we can connect to it and we understand further what it means and how it's related to Vav Vav. רבי חזקיה אהבה שכיח כמיד רבי שמעון אמר ליה, היי דיקרא קורבן, קירוב מבעליה או קריבות, מהי קורבן? אמר לה, הידיעה הוא לגבי חבריה, קורבן מינון קטרין קדישין, דמתקרבה כולו כחדה, ומתקשרן דה בדה, עד יתעבדו כולה חד, בייחודה שלים, להתקנה שמה קדישה, קדח הזה, עוד הכתיב קורבן להשם. Which means the word korban, sacrifice, has like different type of meaning, if we can call it like this. Korban, also, as we read here, it's come from the word krav, which is war, and litkarev, which is come closer. We understand by just reading this, is that when we speak about the use of the tools that the Israelites used in general in all throughout even the journey of the Israelites in the desert, they had really like a spiritual system which we learn and hopefully applying into our life. Spiritual system, knowledge, and space to support their growth. And one of the tools that they were given is really about the tabernacle and the idea of really sacrifice in order to maybe send healing to their life or to remove the attachment to klipot, the attachment to the blockages that they had. And in order to remove those, they, according to the story, sacrifices different animal. And of course, I'm not talking right now about going and do that in a physical matter, but what does it mean for us as a lesson? And the most important thing, as we read here, the idea of the sacrifice is that if I'm doing any spiritual work without the understanding that it's really brings me closer to the light, then we're missing the point. Because the spiritual work that we all here to do and we are doing is really there like as a sacrifice, and what we need to ask ourselves what we want to sacrifice and what is that we do sacrifice in order to get closer. Remember, korban, litkarev, to get closer. So we want to get closer to the light. We want to get closer to my essence, to get closer to who I am and the light that is within me. Sometimes, as the Rav used to say, it feels like a battle, it feels like war, because what is really the war that we have? We're not fighting against someone else. We shouldn't fight with someone else. The war, the fight that we experience is within our mind, within our consciousness, the fight of the thought. The positive thought versus the negative thought. We all have assumptions. We all have certain perception about things. We all think differently from others. Therefore, we may be even suspicious in times when we're talking about negative thoughts that brings up about like the different ideas of doubts within ourselves. So again, if we're doing any spiritual work, and as we started a whole new year, we want to start with a new consciousness, a whole new month also, right? So when we are doing any spiritual work, if we think that we're doing it, without the understanding that it's brings us closer to the light, then everything that we do simply will deplete us out of energy. So we want to make sure, like for example, if someone is doing like a diet and is going to the gym, right? In order, like without like really opening yourself to even the thought of like you can enjoy food while you're dieting. It's okay. So the purpose of the battle, of this fight, of this war, is in order for us to get closer, not to get further away from us or further away from the light. It's getting us closer to feeling complete, to feel peace, to myself, to who am I really, to my heart, to the level of happiness that we want to connect to. We're not here really to suffer or to sacrifice for myself. We're here to sacrifice our ego. And as we read here in this verse, and I highly recommend you also to read verse 51 and even verse 73, that really help us to understand about the sacrifice. There are two types of sacrifices in the animal. There's and it's mentioned in verse 73 in the portion of Vaikra. There is the sacrifice that is male, and there's the sacrifice that is female. It's mentioned there. And when we're talking about the cleansing of a person, we want to cleanse, as it's mentioned in the Zohar, the cleansing with the power of Vav Vav, we can cleanse the mind. And this is what the Zohar is explaining, that the seed level is within our mind. The mind corresponds to the level of Chokhmah, which is male, and the heart corresponds to the level of Binah, which is the female energy. And if a person, it says, does the right thing, the right spiritual work, without any worry and with true love to another person and the love to himself, really, when does it, this is the way we want to do it correctly. We cannot just be intellectual. We need to come from our heart. We need to open our heart. And with this Vav Vav and Yud Lamed Yud, when we awaken in the spark of what? The spark of light in every situation that exists. Yud Lamed Yud, we want to awaken the sparks within. And when we talk about the mind, we spoke about many times about belief system and our intentions and our desire and our thought. It's all in our head. So when someone has a different type of belief system, I feel good only when I get approval from other people. For example, where this belief system come from? Is it coming from the opponent or from the soul? So this week, in a level of cleansing of our thought within all this month and connecting to this, it's really want to ask ourselves about the level of intention. In every action that we do, we want to ask where our intention lays. Is it coming from the evil inclination, from Satan, or is it coming from the soul? And how do we know if our intention is coming from the soul or the evil inclination? We see the result. But this week, we want to make sure that we pay attention to our thought. Our thought is activation of our desire also. Maybe this, maybe we are judging. We really want to see where we're coming from. Certain situations that we'll experience this week will kind of like shed light, turn it on like a flashlight for our thoughts, for our intention, where we are coming from. If we are not agreeing with the result, we're not satisfied with the reality that we are in every area in our life. In our well-being, in our personal happiness, in our relationship with our kids, with our relationship with our people around us, in relationship with our partners, in business. If we are not satisfied with the outcome, we have an opportunity this week with the power of Vav Vav and Yud Lamed Yud to go back to the seed level and to ask ourselves, what was my intention? What is my intention? What was the original intention in related to this particular relationship, in related to particular business, in related to the particular action? Because it all starts with our intention, with a thought. What was my original desire when I had this thought to create this business, to create this product, to even to drive, let's say, to the mall? What was the purpose? If the outcome is that I'm unhappy, I'm sad, there was a fight, there was an argument, it didn't work out the way I wanted, we go back to the intention and we say, okay, I understand. My intention wasn't from the soul. It was completely desire for the self alone. I completely did it because I wanted people to like me. I completely say this word in order to be in a place of like pleasing. Obviously, the outcome of that temporarily will show, oh, we're on a roll, we're on a good place. A few minutes later, we'll feel depleted of energy. So Vav Hey Vav is like allowing us to identify, how do I feel? Am I feeling hurt? Am I feeling bad? I feel like lack of security. Of course, our belief system influences the desire. And we need to know that sometimes through our action, we can change our belief systems. But at the beginning, like for this sake of this lesson of this week, we wanted to, where we're going Vav Hey Vav, we're going back into the original intention. We want to create a different belief system. That the reason I'm doing this or that is because I want to really share from my light. I want to connect to my essence. I want to be of being of love. This is what I'm doing this. Connecting to the first intention. If a relationship doesn't go the way you want it, go back to the first dating. Go back to the first month that you were dating and see what was your intention there. What was your vessel when you drew this type of a deal? I'm drawing this deal just because I want to have money. I'm in this particular job because I really needed money, or I really needed to get out of the house and have this job. So don't complain that you don't like it, because we're coming from an intention of lack. So this week, again, we have the opportunity between Vav Hey Vav and Yud Lamed Yud to transform that and to connect to complete. Because we want to start this week and this month with completion. Because we started the day that is part of actually 12 days of this month of Nisan that controls the whole year. Therefore, with our consciousness, we want to control this year, not to be in no victim mode, right? And to ability to transform and change in the seed level, in every action, in every situation in my life, every area in my life. I want also to share with you some additional information about Vav Hey Vav and Yud Lamed Yud that I felt just to give you like additional information that it's amazing. When we see, for example, Vav Hey Vav. Vav Hey Vav is taken, or it's mentioned, not taken, it's also like kind of planted in different verses within certain prayers. And here's an example of a prayer that beginning of the Kiddush, or the blessing of the wine, on Friday evening, when we connect to the energy of the Shabbat, the energy of the mercy that Shabbat brings us. And the beginning of the prayer is called Vayachulu Hashamayim ve'haaretz, which means it's and you see the red letters in here in this PowerPoint, that it's the initial of this Vav Vav. And what does it really mean? Like, it appears also here, this verse is also appears in Genesis in chapter 1. Vav Vav, the Shamayim is earth, Shamayim is it's the sky, it's the upper world. Haaretz is earth, is the lower world. And what is also represented, and it's indicating about the energy of this week, the energy of Vav Vav, what we can tap into, is the unification between the upper world to the lower world. We have the ability this week to unify our upper worlds and lower worlds with no chaos, that there is a completion. Everything is complete, everything is clean, everything is pure. And it's given us the ability to connect us to our true self, to the purest version of ourself, with no anger, with no frustration, without those negative thoughts that we've mentioned, with no fears, and to do a real tshuva, as we call it, as a real repentance, to go back in time, to time that even we are infant, babies, that full of optimistic and joy and happiness and excitement about our life. So another thing that we can tap into this, following what I just shared, is to connect into the perfect me. So I would like for you to think about what is kind of like your first happy memory that you have about yourself. Connect to this memory. For example, for me, the first happy memory that I have, and I always go back to it when I connect to happiness, is where I was maybe around 8 years old, going outside of my house. There was kind of like a big yard, park, in a rainy day, when my hair was like with no ponytail, like really out and about, and running in the rain. And I remember myself like letting the rain pour on me, and like I was so happy that I actually did something kind of like out of what is expected for me, or with no limitation, in the rain, getting wet. Who cares? No one cares. Like like enjoying the weather. For me, it's like a great memory to connect when I'm free from any limitation, any belief system limitation, any limitation that really here in our mind. What is your memory that you connect to, that connect you to happiness and completion, where you were free of any limitation, any fears that you may have experienced? Go back to this memory and remember it this week, because if we had that in our life, we can always tap into this time that we can be free. And what does it mean for you to be free? What does it mean free of, be pure and cleansed from any anger, any sadness, any frustration? With the power of Vav Vav, we can connect to it. And I want to mention also that this whole month, with the power of all the 72 names combination that we will speak about, it really brings us into a level of the purification of our thought, and it brings us into a level of pure mental healing. Therefore, also when we look at the Yud Lamed Yud, you can see here from the Ari, from a section of a beautiful section of a lesson of the Ari, that he brings here a story about Rabbi Chia, and Rabbi Yonatan went to visit Rabbi Chia ben Abal, that he fell, and he visited him, and he asked him, "Are you suffering?" Basically, and he replied, no. So Rabbi Yonatan asked him, "Give me your hands," and he gave him his hand, and he raised them, as it says here. And he used the power of the 72 name of Yud Lamed Yud, which is the name, as it's mentioned here, that Moses used to find Joseph Coffin, and it's also the name that can cure someone that is sick. I know that most of us knows another sequence that is also part of this month of Aries, Mem He Shin, about healing. But here, Yud Lamed Yud is also about is also a sequence that helps us to get healed. When someone like also goes visit someone that is sick and use this sequence, so we receiving also the power of pure healing of body, mind, and soul. It's really the healing of our thought, of Yud Lamed Yud. And I wanted to share this with you, in addition to what we have mentioned about the Vav Vav and Yud Lamed Yud, that we'll see the power of this week. The power of this week that we have, so profound that we can get help from the universe to pure ourselves from our thought, to have mental illness pure, because the war that we have, and I'm sure that you all agree with me, the war that we have within our mind, of our doubts of to do, not to do, etc. It's really there to confuse us and create so much chaos in our life. So we can start this year, we can start this month and this week with a complete foundation, a clear foundation of balancing between our mind and our heart, and to use the sequence to go back to transform our intention, and to learn that from now on, every action, every desire that we want to manifest, we need to ask ourselves, what is our intention? It's like when you wake up in the morning, every day this week, ask yourself, what is my intention for the day? Not just what I want to achieve, but what is my intention? Where am I coming from, starting today? Thank you for joining me, as we will meet next week to understand more of the power of the 72 names. Again, if you have any question, anything that you would like to wish, you can email me at rachel.madar@kabbalah.com, and also in any form of a social media, Instagram and stuff. You can always get in touch and ask your teacher, how can you even use it even more? Conversation with the teacher is so important, as our teacher is guiding us in our process and supporting us. Thank you again for joining me.